You guys, I have such a wild story for you today that something in my memory sparked this crazy couple from my old circuit. I'm gonna have to change the names. I'm gonna call them Christina and Justin. So those are the names. And it all started, I actually dated Justin for a little bit. He was in a neighboring hall, and we met at a special service day where we went to help where the need is greater. And really, honestly, there was already red flags then. But, it is so rare to find someone to date. And when you're young, even just to go out on a date or be in love, it's rare. So maybe you kind of close your eyes a little bit more to red flags. I don't know. But anyways, I was assigned in his group with some other sisters that knew him. And he was oozing in charm. Very, very, very charming, handsome guy who had a brand new car. It was kind of funny because it was a car for elderly people, but it was brand new and he loved it. So we're in service, and the young guy trying to impress the chicas is speeding a little bit, and we're in the rural territory, and we happen to pass a cop. The cop does a UE and tries to pull us over, but I don't think he had his lights on yet. I just remember him freaking out. Justin was like, oh my gosh, there's a cop behind us and I'm going to lose him. And we're in service, we're like, no, you should probably not lose him. But he kept going, he took a turn into a housing area and took another turn, and he actually did lose the cop in service. And we're all like, wow, that was crazy. And we were kind of laughing about it all night long. But, there's a little teeny tiny tidbit in your mind as a Jehovah's Witness where you tag every little thing that's not really right because we're supposed to be honest people. So you're kind of like, yeah, haha, that was funny. But also, should probably not be doing that, especially not in service. Here we're God's chosen people representing on earth, preaching, and you're kind of evading the cops. But whatever. And I kept getting to know him a little bit better, and we dated. And I am going to again tell this story so frank. Oh, my poor parents, mom, fast forward. This was after my first divorce, and I really, really, really wanted to do everything right. I wanted to wait till marriage, and I didn't want to have a guilty conscience, and I really honestly just wanted to make Jehovah happy. I wanted to kind of redeem myself from the past, or as I call it, I wanted to be a recycled virgin. And I told this brother, I just want you to know, don't, this is going to sound so weird, but I really had no better way of saying it, but I'm like, please don't grab me, don't grab me inappropriately. I'm a sister. It makes me feel uncomfortable. Please just don't do that. Don't grab my boobs or whatever. And he said to me, I'm going to grab whatever I want to when I want to. Which was a little shocking. It was wow. So red flag right there, right? And he's a brother. You shouldn't even have to say it, in my mind, to another brother who was, in good standing, auxiliary pioneering and all this. And then I broke up with him because it just felt wrong. I'm like, all these little things feel wrong. And he would say oh, I'm going to come over and we can watch a movie. And he just wouldn't show up. And then he would give me some story how something major happened and he just couldn't make it. And I'm like, you can't text someone that you can't make it. Like, I'm literally sitting here waiting. And this happened more than once with him. I was actually visiting another sister for a sleepover that lived really close to him. And he said he would come over and hang with us and watch a movie. And he just never showed up. And it was so weird because plus it's my boyfriend, So I'm like, this is so strange. So much so that night I thought, did something happen to him? Because any other person would text message you that they weren't going to be able to come. And the next morning when I was leaving town to go to work, I drove by their house. He still lived with his parents, and just to make sure he was okay. I mean, when you're at that point. So I was like, this is not working out. You're not even texting people. And he had so many excuses, and it just all felt like, no, I don't think so. So I broke up with him. And then as I'm breaking up with him, he says to me, but I love you. We hadn't even been dating that long. I mean, it was not like that serious. And I'm like, that's so weird to say to somebody for the first time when you're breaking up with them. And I hung up and I'm like, what was that all about? And so he kept calling me, and he was very, very charming. And so I thought, all right, maybe I'll give it another try. And I found him charming and cute, but I could not connect with this guy. I actually had like an alert in my phone that said you have to call Justin, because I dreaded talking to him on the phone. He was just really kind of demeaning and mean. And one day he said to me, you're just so sensitive. And I remember hanging up and feeling really bad, like maybe I am really just so sensitive. And it is true. I'm a very sensitive person. That is a fact. Like, I am. And it's gotten better over the years as I got older. But I was like super sensitive when I was young. But it took me like years to read something where it said the opposite of sensitive is insensitive. And you don't want to be insensitive. And that was exactly what he was. He was insensitive. He was mean. He was really mean. He tried to roast you whenever he could, but so much so oh yeah, it's just a joke, but it hurt. And I'm like, I don't know. So kind of the last straw that happened is we went to this big event. My bestie at the time, another brother, and then Justin and me. And Justin and I went. It was I. And we went to this big event. And he invited this girl, Christina, that we just didn't really care for her. She came from this mega wealthy J-Dub family that came from that congregation where my grandpa was having all that trouble already. They're very snooty, very arrogant family. And I'm like, why would he invite her with us? Like, we're already 4 people. We don't really, I'm not ever going to be mean to somebody ever, but I felt like she was kind of the one that was not nice. She wasn't nice. She was snobby. She was wealthy, snobby kind of. And I'm like, why would he invite her? But then, he already invited her. So what are you going to do? So we went to this big event. And I was dating Justin at the time. And we all got lost. There was thousands of people at this thing. Huge outdoor concert and all this stuff. And we lost Justin and Christina. And it just was so weird to me. The entire time I was with my other friend and the other brother, and no sign of those two, which felt really weird. And they were not answering their phone. They weren't texting. I'm like, this is super duper weird. And then at the end, when we all had to drive home again, they appeared again together. And there's so many crowds. So Justin's like, here, I have to hold your hand so we don't get lost. And he took my hand, and then he took Christina's hand. And it just felt so weird to me. I'm like, this dude's seriously holding 2 girls' hands right now. And I bet he's feeling awesome. And then he would also tell me how Christina is kind of one time I said, I feel like you're really arrogant, Justin. And he said to me, I'm not arrogant, but Christina is arrogant. And I'm like, okay, so you do realize, like, she's really not, like, that nice of a person, but whatever. And the whole thing, it just felt so weird. And then he would tell me about sisters who were really hot, and I was like, all of this feels weird. And later I found out the reason he probably forgot that he had a date with me that night is because he was dating all of us at the same time. He was dating Christina, he was dating me, he was dating that girl that he said that he found, like, so hot, but then he would tell me she's hot, and I'm like, I don't know, it's just like, this is just stupid to me. And I think another red flag in a relationship is when the person says, let's keep our relationship quiet for now and let's not really tell anybody. So my friend that I was close to, she knew we were dating, and I really didn't see why we had to keep it quiet that we were dating. And of course, in hindsight, it makes sense, because even when he invited Christina to go with us, that's already kind of weird. Like, you're hanging out with your boyfriend and he's inviting another girl to come. But he probably said the same thing to her. And so we all didn't really know. We're all dating him. This is a Jehovah's Witness in good standing. Not even just in good standing, in, like, the best standing. And I didn't want a relationship like that. So I broke up with him, and I was like, this is just goofy. And there weren't really even hurt feelings or anything like that, because it was so short. And I'm only just mentioning this because the whole story is just wild. So him and Christina start dating officially. And we're all kind of shocked by it, because he had said so many bad things about her. But we did feel that the one thing he liked about Christina is that she came from a very wealthy family, and he liked the name and the status attached to that. So we felt like, okay, maybe the one thing, but it's just not even, like, his type, and he talks bad about her. And we almost wanted to bet, like, will he marry her or will he not marry her? And those two, and, you know, honestly, now that we're out, it doesn't even really matter. They were young adults. Again, they can do whatever they want to, but they sure love to be holy for the congregation. Like, people love, like, oh, you know, now she's pioneering, and oh my God, now he's a servant. They were like, at the international convention, they were interviewed. I think he was interviewed several times, or he was on stage. And my friends, who were really, really good, kind people, she was a pioneer, her husband was a pioneer and an elder, and never were they asked to be on stage, because they just weren't part of the elite like that. You can perform and kill yourself for the work, and it doesn't really matter if you're not in the in club. And I remember seeing Justin on stage at the international convention and thinking, hey, he's a liar, he's a cheater. And here he is on stage, but my friends who are really humble, kind people aren't. Feels really weird. And it is all those little things that contribute to waking up in the end, because you see this kind of stuff and you're like, this is so weird. And so it continues. Justin and Christina, they figure out a way, they're dating. They figure out a way to go out of town together and apparently have sex. And they both get reproved for this. And then during this, and really honestly, like, I mean, they're kids. It's kind of sad that there's so much stress associated with them, like, just being, I mean, I'm sure she was in love. I can't speak for him. He seems to be, like, kind of a narcissist, like, just loving himself. But for her, I feel bad. It was a lot of stress. And then probably the family was so elite and wealthy that for them it was probably a blemish that now their daughter, granddaughter put a blemish on their holy name, whatever. But their restrictions get lifted after a while, and they end up getting married. And I did not know that you could still get married in the Kingdom Hall, which I'm glad. It's way too strict. I mean, it's so mean to do that to people. But at the time I thought, wow, I didn't know that they could marry in the Kingdom Hall. And they did. They got married in the Kingdom Hall. Actually, I went to the wedding. It was beautiful. I felt bad for her. I thought, I don't know, like, he's a charming, cute guy, but I don't know if this is really like the flex that you think it is, because he just wasn't nice. But then again, in the Jehovah's Witness world, it's such slim pickings that you can probably be so glad and thankful that you even found someone to marry, because I know so many sisters that never were able to even find someone to date, not even one time. And what it does to you that you can't even date, it makes you feel so bad about yourself, and it shouldn't, because it's not your fault. The reason is that you're in a cult, and there's so many more women that stay than men statistically. So that's why they try to make this sound so good. Jehovah's Witness sisters are a large army and our sisters, but statistically, sadly, women are more likely to stay in a cult. Men leave. So we have like these odds of men leaving, women staying, and guess what? It then means that there's really no one to date or marry. I remember one sister that was in my neighboring congregation. They were in service, like all the teenage girls. And, teenage girls say things. So it wasn't really nice. But they were talking about another sister who was like basically a 40-year-old virgin. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you choose to do that, there's nothing wrong with that. But these were teenage girls. And they said in service, like one of the girls, she said, if that's gonna be me, I'm gonna kill myself. Because she had a desire, and it's human to have a desire to love and be loved. But guess what? That same sister that said that when she was a teenager, she is still single. I don't know if she ever dated, but as far as I can see, I don't think she ever met anybody to date. And I think a lot of people put it on the back burner, like, but paradise is near. And then suddenly you end up being 30, you end up being 40, you end up being 50, you're suppressing your desires because you keep living for Armageddon, an event that hasn't shown up for our great-grandparents, that hasn't shown up and won't show up. And you're sitting there wasting your precious youth and your life. It's really so heartbreaking. But again, okay, so let's go back to the story. As soon as they get married, and again, we're all J-dubs. We don't really have like a great education or great jobs or anything. But they buy a house and they start going on all these lavish vacations. I mean, really, truly like lavish. They went to Africa. They went to Thailand. They went everywhere. And we're all like small town people in the Bible Belt. And we're thinking, how in the world is her dad maybe financing this? Which could be, But then one day they tell us that, as a matter of fact, they had to file bankruptcy. And that was kind of shocking because as a Jehovah's Witness, that's like deeply shameful. I'm sure there's like a watchtower on having to file bankruptcy. And it also feels kind of wrong to see someone live so lavishly and then just be like, what? I'm filing for bankruptcy, when they really... I know that people have to do this. I'm not saying that. It's just that they were deliberately going on like 3-4 vacations a year on different continents that no normal person can do, And it felt so weird to see that. And I mean, people would say like, oh yeah, those two. Yeah, they're just materialistic. Haha. And I'm like, that's weird. So one day, one of the things that he would do that was so weird is he would always have the latest and the greatest of everything. And when you're a J-dub, you definitely get judged for having the first iPhone ever. If you drive a Tesla, which I think he drives a Tesla now, if you drive a Mercedes and a BMW, they judge you for that. They feel like that's materialistic and that's a showy display of one's means. And it's weird because people did think that of them, and they would say, oh, he's materialistic, but they would laugh it off because those two just got a pass. Like, I don't think anyone ever said anything to them, while other couples, if they would go canoeing twice a month on a weekend and miss service, would got talked to. It's just who you know. It's who you know. So one day he would say to us, yeah, oh, I got this new iPhone. I won it. And I got it. I won it in a prize. And we're like, oh, okay. And then he got this brand new, amazing mountain bike, like amazing. And he would tell us, I won this too. And suddenly that started being like his thing, telling us he won everything. And we're just like, he's such a liar. Like, you don't win everything you own that's more expensive, you know? And we're just like, what a liar this guy is. So this is the craziest story I've ever heard. He told his wife that he was accepted to compete in a reality TV show for like Bear Grylls. And he's going to Scotland by himself to be on this reality TV show. And we're all like, what the heck is he talking about? And like, do Jehovah's Witnesses really do that? Like, don't you get into situations that would be iffy? But so he left and he traveled to Scotland by himself and tells his wife that he's accepted to Bear Grylls adventure show and they're filming now. And we're all like, is she buying this? Like, I guess, like, what do you even do? I feel so bad for her. Because what do you even do? You're a Jehovah's Witness. You can't, like, leave the guy. You're stuck in this relationship. And then my friend and I, we kind of started, like, looking into, is Bear Grylls filming right now? And, where are they filming? And who's the cast? And we're trying to figure out, like, I mean, it was just insane, honestly. We're just so confused with this claim. So after a little while, he comes back from Scotland on his solo trip. And he tells everyone that they had horrible, horrible weather and the show got canceled. Because, of course, we all were, saying, hey, we can't wait to see you on this show, you weirdo. But he's like, oh, it got canceled. It was horrible weather, so there will be no show, which I'm sure in reality, a reality TV show would embrace bad weather because it would make for good TV. And that was that. Nothing happened. I remember one of the elders saying, yeah, that's Justin. He's just a liar. And again, that's one of those moments where you think, are you for real right now? Like, you just said the ministerial servant in your hall, oh, he's just a liar, and that doesn't bother you. That's highly concerning to me that you all just say, oh yeah, he just lies, he makes up stories. So weird. And then even after they filed bankruptcy, their trips didn't stop. They were still going on trips, and I will have no comment about this, but I'm just gonna leave this here, and you guys can think of it what you may, but I don't want to get myself in trouble. But one day their house burned down, and the insurance check cleared. That's all I'm gonna say to that. But it's like all these things that you're watching, and you're thinking, man, these are J-dubs, like, they're acting so strange, right? And another thing that happened is that he was pulled over and got a DUI. And in the congregation went to court to support him. And he was like, it's racial profiling. They're so mean. I didn't even do anything. We're in the South. And, that sounds, could be right? But I went and looked up his DUI because in that state, everything's public record. And there's no way that anybody was racially profiling because it was nighttime and he had very tinted windows. And the person driving behind him on the interstate called 911 because he was swerving so badly. Because he was drunk. So you can't feign racial profiling when you were drunk driving as a servant. And the congregation went and sat with him in court. I didn't even know they do that. They came and supported him. Honestly, don't even know like if he got out of that DUI or not. But what I do know is that shortly after that, he got another DUI. He has 2 mugshots floating out there. 2. And that is crazy. And you know, when you see all these things, and I'm sure all of you guys have stories like this, maybe not the reality TV part, but I mean like stories where you see people who are shady and they claim to be J-dubs, and here you really like think, wow, we're supposed to be like these holy people. This is not holy. This is weird. Oh, and I was gonna ask you guys, what do you think that Justin really did in Scotland? Because I am so sure it wasn't some Bear Grylls reality show contestant that he was a part of. No way. But I really always wondered, what did he do in Scotland by himself?